All right, guys. So in a way, these videos that I'm making, these current videos that I'm making right now, it's kind of like a series, because the more I read this book about the military juntas in Nigeria, the more things that are kind of parallel to real life. Uh, Not as violent, of course, because I'm going to tell you what took place was very, very violent. And it's an unfortunate thing that it took place. It led to, I guess you can say, the deletion of so many lives. And that deletion was taking place in the Civil War. But the lessons to pick up from it, the lessons I'm picking up from it right now is kind of being what you call a hardliner brigadier. And I'm going to take a piece of that a piece of the story and apply it to real life in our situation that we are in the West. Now, the thing is in Nigeria, you had a military coup that took place in January, and I think it was like 1965 or something like that. It was kind of early on. And so when that coup took place, many people thought it was Igbos. It was mostly Igbos who were perpetuating the coup. And unfortunately, those Igbos actually deleted some prominent figures of the North. They prominently assassinated them. Okay? That's what happened. Now, the thing what else happened, right, is that Northern troops wanted revenge, and they wanted revenge not because their fellow Northerners were deleted in that first coup, but because they were afraid of another one to come. So you had Northerners who were, for example, like, nah, let's kind of just wait it out. Let's kind of just stay cool, stay calm, stay collected. But you had hardliners. And the hardliner that I want to talk about today, who I'm picking up lessons from, his name was Mortala Mohammed. Yeah, Mortala Mohammed. And what happened is, just give me a second. Just give me 1 minute. Sorry. Okay. So what happened was that Mortala Mohammed, he wanted a whole clear out of the army of Igbos, okay? Because he was afraid that they would plot again and do it again. But unfortunately, that clean out, he was so no nonsense and so hardline about it that he's like, yo, we gotta purge the army of these people. But unfortunately, those ideas of purging the army turned violent, and unfortunately, a lot of innocent lives were lost in that process of it. Like Igbos who didn't even have anything to do with the first junta were unfortunately victim. Igbos that were based in the north who were moved down to the south, back where they originally came from, they were unfortunately victims of these things. Okay, it was a very bad time. It was very, very bad. It was very, very horrible. It was a really, really, really horrible time. Okay, but President Mortada, or I should say, Brigadier General Mortala, when he took power, what happened was he was no nonsense. as crazy as it is, as a fellow Fulani man, I was surprised at his outspokenness. I was surprised at how no nonsense he really was. I was surprised at how much of a brigadier, hardliner he really was in terms of corruption and in terms of nationalization of the resources. So much so that I did some research and, unfortunately, his demise, you know how they say live by the gun, die by the gun? His unfortunate demise was by a CIA orchestrated assassination. Now, the reason why this is relevant to me is because when it comes to the gender war, I am a hardliner, and I am a no-nonsense type of person when it comes to the gender war, meaning that unfortunately, there will be people who may be casualties in the gender war. It's an unfortunate thing, but this is just how the ball rolls. Now, hear me out when I say casualties. What I mean by casualties in the gender war is that maybe there are women who are, like, how should I put it? Well-intentioned. Meaning that they vouch for men. They have men's best interests. They want the best for men. They want men to, in essence, be men, right? There might be those, right? However, as bad as this sounds, they have to be looked at as enemies as well. And the reason why that is as unfortunate as it sounds, while they might vouch for men and things like that, they're only an incident away, they're only an influence away from saying things and doing things that are contrary to what they were saying and doing before. As bad as it sounds. But that's how you have to even look at the ones who vouch for men. That's how you have to even look at the ones who maybe say that this is a safe space for men. That's how you have to look at the ones who are maybe having podcasts about, how these things went for men and things like that. And despite the opposition that they may get from the sisterhood, right? It's still not good enough. You hear guys who will say, protect this woman at all costs. But now I say that, no, I won't protect them. And the reason being that there's still, most of the time their lives don't reflect what they are vouching for. Most of the time they are single. Most of the time they aren't married. Okay? This includes a lot of them. Some of them have even shown themselves to be chameleons. So unfortunately, they're casualties, and they are not to be trusted either. No matter who they are, no matter what their content is, they aren't to be trusted either. Now, there's another casualty. The other casualty is the, I want to say the man, right, who still believes that there is a chance to repair this situation, who still believes that there are good women in the West, who still believes that you attract who you are, or you are, who still believes in that kind of thing. There are men like that, okay? Unfortunately, they're casualties as well, and they're in, and they might necessarily not be enemies, but perhaps they're not. Perhaps they are not aware of what's going on. Maybe that's the issue that is there in itself. Is that they're not aware of what's going on. Okay, they're not. They're living in, I guess you can say, a reality in which they think that there is no gender war and that this does not apply. Many people will say like the gender war is over, but as a matter of fact, the gender war is just beginning. We have to guard every flank now, and I mean that includes the spiritual flanks and also your mental health flanks that these women will have no regards for as well. So with that being said, many men, and I can't really blame them because perhaps they have experiences that that will garner them saying that, hey, you know, it's not as bad as you make it out to be. Perhaps they have experiences like that, you know. We never know. Maybe they do. Okay. But unfortunately, they're casualties as well. And another casualty too, and while I can't really blame them on it, you know, because they're so busy catering to their husbands, are the ones who aren't present, who won't say anything, for the simple fact they're too busy with their husbands. They're too busy taking care of their husbands, which I'm not mad at, okay? I'm not upset at that. However, I guess because of their shyness and their meekness, they will not come back. They will not like vouch and say this what's going on is wrong, because they're afraid of the pushback they would get from the hyenas. Now, unfortunately, during the this is kind of like a short video because I want to save some. I guess you can say I want to save some momentum to go live tomorrow, inshallah. Because I said I was going to go live tomorrow, inshallah. Inshallah, I still plan on doing that. But what I want to say is that the reason why they don't want to do this is because, again, the pushback they would receive from the sisterhood. Now, as a final thought, it was very bad what was happening during that time of Nigerian military juntas, because you had northern soldiers who looked at every Igbo as a potential enemy. They looked at every Igbo as a military junta waiting to happen. And so it's bad how they retaliated against them in such an indiscriminate way. Now, when it comes to us, though, I hate to say this, and I really hate to say what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it. You have to look at every Western modern woman as an enemy, okay? Or as someone who does not have your best interest at large. Now, I'm not calling to the same unthinkable acts that, the northern soldiers did at the time. What I'm calling for is for you to completely neutralize them by not acknowledging their existence, since most of them think that you should pay everything for them simply existing. And so what I'm calling for in this, gender war is for you to basically beat them by not acknowledging them. Beat them by not even doing the most basic things for them. Not holding the door for them. When they ask you maybe to do something, you not do it. Because sometimes strangers will pull that little, just to test you. Sometimes strange women will even pull that thing where they ask you to get something from the shelf because they're like, oh, you're tall. I recommend you buy these, as a matter of fact, as a weapon. But if you're having earpods, get earpods and put those things in and actually use those so you can actually have a valid excuse at ignoring the women. Because then it'll be like, okay, you have earpods in, and then you can even pretend like you can't hear them. And this is where the hard line comes from, This is where it's now crunch time. Okay? Because as bad as it is, right? I'm just gonna wrap it up. Because it's as bad as it is, even if a woman maybe has a good intention for you in the West, which is not really available, right? You don't know, because it's gotten so bad in the West that even finding a soft-spoken woman who is respectful, peaceful, kind, gentle, and even bashful would be too good to be true. You would actually, we're at the point now where finding a woman like that is actually, you would think that there's actually something wrong. You'll be like, wait a minute, something's up here. What's going on? Now, while I don't follow the religion of the Christians and never will, you have an influx of women in mass now finding Christ. Upon him be peace, and entering the church. But what's happening though is that even these women are only trying to booby trap you in, because they think that they're going to find a God-fearing man who's going to take care of them and actually forgive them for their promiscuous past. So what I recommend to men who are in the church is, if anything, I think it would be better to actually have different gender churches. That way a man can get what he needs in his respective faith, and then a woman can have another way. Because they're only there for that reason, and that's the only reason they're there for. Therefore, really think about the hardline approach that you must take in this gender war. And last but not least, if you are going to exit the United States, like I am, Let this be the approach you take until you exit. Okay? The ones who aren't going to exit, who want to stay here for the madness, by all means do so. But do not guilt trip other men who don't want to stay here for the madness. Okay? And do not guilt trip them and try to be an enemy to these other men by saying that there's still good women left here when you know that that's a bygone conclusion. Every single day they show themselves on social media about what they're about and about the fact that they are indeed not really good. Okay? So with that being said, I'm going to end this video. Leave your thoughts, leave your comments. Fully signing out. Good job, Ramadan.